Well, we welcome in who was recently named the best player in college football of the 21st century and one of the newest members of the Nebraska Athletics Hall of Fame. Certainly one of the best to ever do it in this uniform. Ndamukong Suh, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me. Excited to talk to you guys. It's been a while.
Well, congratulations on the Hall of Fame announcement. Your list of accolades and awards are long and lengthy, but to be named to the Nebraska Athletics Hall of Fame, what does that one mean to you?
I mean, being a part of the Nebraska Athletics Hall of Fame is probably one of the most prestigious honors I've ever been able to receive. Obviously, Nebraska is near and dear to my heart and always will be, and look forward to being able to come back to Lincoln and celebrate with all the beautiful people and friends and family. So I'm excited to be able to see my kids see the great university. Haven't been there in a year or so, and now they're at an age where they can soak it up and actually understand what's all going on. So I'm excited about the overall accomplishment and award, and looking forward to being able to get back to Lincoln.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, if you think about when you were a high school recruit in Oregon and that decision to come to Nebraska, would you have imagined that it would have been the start to leading into all the things that you've been able to achieve?
Honestly, no. I really looked at being able to come to school, great opportunity, the mix of being a student athlete first and foremost, and then being able to have potentially a good career at playing football. Never imagined going to the NFL and being able to have the accomplished career that I had, winning championships, and having fun being able to play a sport that I learned to love. It wasn't my first sport, but it is definitely my most exciting sport to be able to be a part of.
Why did you learn to love it?
I grew up playing soccer since I was 3. My father played professionally overseas, and so it was something that was ingrained in us as young kids. My older sister, who I followed in her footsteps of wanting to be able to get a college scholarship to be able to go play athletics, and I chose football at the time. Ultimately, really wanted to go for basketball, but being 6'4", you're not at an elite height, to say the least. I had the skills, but not the height. So football was one of those things that I got introduced to at a pretty average age of being in high school, or my first experience was in 8th grade, and then not again until my sophomore year in high school. And really just took a liking to being able to impose my will. And that's kind of always been the exciting part of being able to play football and being on the defense side of the ball. I never wanted to be an offensive lineman. I always wanted to beat up on the offensive lineman.
Oh, that's great. So take me back to when, you decided to come to Nebraska out of high school. There's a coaching change. You stick around with Coach Pelini, and then you end up you basically made the decision, 3 different times to come back to Nebraska, to come to Nebraska and then come back to Nebraska. How important that decision ended up being for you, and what went into that decision?
Yeah, Bo Pelini really hit me between the eyes right when I got there, or when he got there and said, hey, you have the ability to be better than some of the guys that I've coached at LSU. I'm drawing a blank on the gentleman's name who ended up being a first-round draft pick after he just won a championship with LSU and then came to Lincoln and Bo. And so I said, hey, if you see something special in myself, I know I'm a hard worker. I'm going to give it all my all, even though I'm homesick and I kind of want to go back to Portland and be around my friends and family. I'm going to be uncomfortable and being in a place that I know has open arms to me, but it's going to be a difficult transition. And I took it as a great challenge. And so being able to do that and then be able to have a strong-minded coach, especially Carl Pelini, who was really our DC majority of the time, and great coaches on the staff, I just said, hey, let's put our heads down and try and create something special, which we were able to do.
What went into that? How did you create that something special, especially those last 2 seasons?
It was a lot of hard work just from a standpoint of sitting in. And I mentioned Carl Pelini because when he came in with his brother Bo, we really sat down and I learned the defense from top to bottom, understood what the safeties were doing, understood what the corners were doing, and run fits and pass protection, all these different particular pieces. So I knew where I could cheat within our system and make plays. And Carl would always give me a tough time, and Bo would yell at me all the time. And it's like, you're not doing this the right way. And I was like, well, coach said I could cheat as long as I made a play. So I would go and make a play, and Coach Bo couldn't say anything to me, and Carl would be smirking behind in defensive meetings saying, yeah, let him do it because he understands the defense, and he took the time throughout the summers to see where all his teammates were fitting and made plays for us. So it was really a way that I took that knowledge and I transplanted that into the NFL, and knowing they had all that experience and they were preparing me to move on to the next level. That was my wish.
That 2009 season, of course, that was one of the ones that was noted in the article that named you the best player of the 21st century. But, how did that feel week in and week out in 2009, just being able to do everything that you did week in and week out?
Week in and week out was really heads down and taking it week by week. One of my best friends, and he's my best friend and best man in my wedding, and David Harvey, who was a defensive end / tight end in Nebraska with me. He always kept me very, very humbled and being able to see all of the attention that we were getting. But we would have our side conversations and really go every Thursday. We'd go to a wing spot locally, the Watering Hole, and sit down and just talk about the different things that were coming across the table. And he just kept me grounded from that standpoint. And so being able to have that focus of taking week by week was something important that I really relied on him for, because I think people at that stage of their collegiate career could get a really big head and say, I'm the king of the world or the queen of the world or whatever it may be, and not understand there's a process to being successful. And if you stick to that process, it'll maintain and be there for life.
So how did it feel then on Saturdays, on game days, when you are just lighting everybody up? What was that feeling?
The feeling was amazing. I got to celebrate with my teammates, make plays, see them make plays. And that's one thing that people don't really realize. If I didn't have the David Harveys of the world, the Jared Cricks of the world, the Barry Turners of the world, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be as successful as I was. Those guys took on double teams. I took on double teams, and they made plays. And so if we didn't work as a collective group together, my success would not be where it's at.
Humble as always. Well, do you have a favorite game that you played in as a Husker?
A favorite game? I would say one that sticks out in my mind is probably the one where Zach Potter tipped the ball and I got to return that touchdown versus Colorado, and then Alex Henry kicked that amazing field goal for us to win. And then second to that, I'd probably say when we're in Missouri, it's always amazing feeling to destroy Missouri. There's just something about that school. Just anytime you can beat them to a pummel and let them know who's in charge, it feels really good.
That is great. Well, I hate to bring up this one, but it certainly stands out to the Texas game in 2009. What an individual performance. I know it stings the outcome, but what went into that performance for you and being able to be so dominant in that game?
Yeah, really what went into that game was sitting with Coach Pelini, both Pelinis, and understanding what they wanted to run. They ran a very, very basic offense. And I think we had about a week and a half preparing for that game or something of that nature. And I just understood what they wanted to do from the run game perspective. And really everybody on our defensive front said, as long as we shut down their run and penetrate and make plays in the run game, we will have a field day with our offensive line. And that's ultimately we wanted to impose in their will of saying, hey, you guys cannot run on our defense. And it'll be very difficult for you guys to pass pro. And if we can get some points on the board from an offensive perspective, give them as many opportunities as possible, we got a real chance to be able to win this championship, which, in my opinion, we did. Somebody wanted to put a second back on the clock, but hey, things happen for a reason at the end of the day.
Okay, so this is one of the big debates. Should you have won the Heisman that year?
I think if you look at history, and I'm just a little bit of a history buff, most people that win AP Player of the Year have won the Heisman.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it there.
Okay, I like it. I like it. You know, just, again, you're the best. You're the best to in that century, as we've talked a lot about, one of the best to wear the Nebraska uniform. What went into that for you, you know, becoming that and then maintaining that for so long, not just here at Nebraska, but then into your NFL career? You know, if you talk to young athletes, what kind of advice you pass along to be able to do. I don't know if anybody can do what you do, but maybe follow along that path where you can maintain it for so long.
Yeah, if I were to give a young kid advice, I would say you should strive to be better than me. I think there's things that I could have done better and found different ways to create more separation to, for your point that we just talked about the Heisman, to make it a clear-cut win from that standpoint. But it's having the Mark Myers of the world, which was our athletic trainer there, and I believe Mark is still there, and having close friends, like I said, David Harvey, and good teammates where you guys want to collectively all win. And yes, there's going to be certain people that have more name recognition and they're going to get more credit for that. But make sure you share that, because this is an ultimate team sport. And if you don't put your head down and absolutely work every single day, you can't expect success. And you need a little bit of luck at the end of the day, because, like, again, Zach Pardo tipped that ball. I happened to be in the right place and took that opportunity and made the most of it. Vice versa, there's so many other things that happened throughout so many different games of, one, if you don't repeat these things and work on this in practice and play at a high level in practice and through your preparation, you can't expect success, because what it does, it follows an opportunity of saying you've always been prepared, because there's twists and turns throughout the games. And the more you're prepared for those, the better the outcome that you'll have for yourself.
Oh, that's great advice. Everybody that I talk to that knows you say you're one of the nicest, kindest people and love interacting with you. But then that is a completely different story when you're on the field. I mean, the stories are limitless. We just heard one from Tom. I listened to one from Tom Brady last night talking about, an interaction he had with you. Tell me about that switch that flips for you when you go from off the field to on the field, and how it's just completely polar opposite.
Yeah, it's something that I've worked on at an early age, especially when I became a pro, with a sports psychologist, and really just having the focus of, when I'm on the football field, whether you're my best friend, my mother, my father, my sister, whatever it may be, if we're opposite colors, we're no longer friends. I'm not here to hurt you or do anything of that nature, but I'm going to impose my will, and I'm going to, if you're not on my same team, you're an enemy at the end of the day. And so having that mentality and that focus between the white lines doesn't define me as a person off the field. And one of the things I've always prided myself on, especially as I've become older in age and wiser and learning from different mentors, I want to be more successful off the field than I was on the field. And the only way to do that is to be kind, be thoughtful, and take care of people that have taken care of you, and vice versa, just having good quality relationships. And so you can't do that with a mean attitude and aggressiveness and all these different particular pieces, which we do on the football field, to be able to be one of the best, or considered one of the best. And so that's how I look at life, and it's being able to compartmentalize those different particular pieces as you go into business rooms. And it's being versatile. There's no different than somebody has the ability to go read a book to young kids, but then turn around and go and be in a boardroom with high level executives and have the knowledge to be able to speak with them as well.
That's great. It seems like you're really passionate too about mentoring the next generation of great football players. And saw that you were talking about a financial. You were at a financial forum. Why has that become important to you to be able to pass along your knowledge that you've learned throughout the years to that next generation?
I think it's super important. I've been very fortunate enough to be able to work with some of the likes of Intuit, and are actually looking at some different opportunities, hopefully with the university, to be able to partner with them, especially around all the NIL opportunities and the rules that are continuing to change. But financial literacy is very, very important. No matter who you are and what your goals are in life, it's going to be part of your life at some point in time, whether it's at a young age where you're a young adult learning how to manage and budget your $100 for gas, like my mom gave me a credit card for, or you're a successful CEO, or everything in between, and you have to manage and understand your living expenses, your traveling expenses, all these different particular pieces to be able to be successful and whatnot. And so for me, we got to start teaching our youth and kids at a young age how to start to implement it into their life. Not only the knowledge, but then implementation, which is very important, which is what I like to do, and why I've partnered with Intuit to be able to have that success and pass it along. As I had great mentors, Joe Moglia. I remember leaving college after finishing my senior year and sitting in his office at TD Ameritrade in Omaha, and him showing me his budget. And people may not remember, Joe Moglia was one of our assistant defensive line coaches, or defensive coaches, excuse me. And I always ask him, like, why do you leave in a black car every Friday or Thursday evening, and then you come back, we only see you when you come back on Saturday mornings? Well, I have board meetings in New York for TD Ameritrade, and I have to go and do this work, and then I come back and have fun with you guys so we can go win games. So I've always, from those experiences, I want to pass on that knowledge that I was fortunate enough to get.
Well, played a long time in the NFL. What's next for you? What are you up to now?
I'm not officially retired, so the door is still open. But honestly, spending time with my family. I'm here down in San Diego right now, spending some time with friends and family. Have a lot of excitement, things to do, show new endeavors with my kids, have fun, but also on boards, building companies, and having exciting time just being in the business world and spending time with my family.
How is it? How has been being a father for you?
Being a father is one of the best feelings, but trust me, I got 3-year-old twin boys. It is a lot of work. I was up at 6:30 this morning, and I will probably not go to sleep until 10 o'clock tonight. And the kids have been up exciting all day, but it's a lot of fun. But I'm sure all the parents out there understand my pain, but also the enjoyment.
You got some future D linemen?
Potentially, if it's up to their mother, Miss Suh, they will be basketball players, and I'm more of a liking of pushing them towards that as well.
You know, we've talked about a lot of different things, but you know, now that you've been away from Nebraska for a while and you're coming back and you're going to be able to celebrate here this fall, how do you reflect upon your time here and just what being a Husker meant to you?
Being a Husker to me is one of a kind, one of the best fans in all of college football, if not the best, in my opinion. And ultimately, it was one of the best experiences in my first big decision as a young adult. And I made that right decision because I got to be around great people, the Dennis LeBlancs of the world from an academic perspective, and everybody through and through at that organization. And I've really ultimately wanted to share that. And that's one of the reasons why I have my scholarship, to be able to bring kids back to the great engineering program that I graduated from, but also experience that great campus and all the things that can be afforded to them if they go to the university. So Nebraska will always be close to my heart. I want to spend more time there as I eventually get into retirement, whenever I choose to do that. But I do unfortunately have, and fortunately, a family that I got to take care of. So it doesn't always lend me to be able to get there back. But I'm excited to go see, as I call him, my young nephew, Dylan Raiola. He and his father and I are very close and have known each other for a while. So yeah.
You also were able to take in some Nebraska volleyball at the Final Four. How cool is that, just to be able to be now a fan of all the other sports and be able to be in the stands for some of those events?
It's amazing because it's funny. I was sitting at home. Happened to be scrolling through Instagram, and a close friend of mine, and Jordan Larson, who's at the Olympics right now, hopefully going to get another gold. I was looking at her timeline, and I was like, "Oh, you're in Tampa," and so we spend time in our residencies in Florida and Tampa, and so I shot her a text and I was like, "Hey, you guys are really playing down here?" And it's like, "Yeah, for sure." And so I actually reached out to the AD at the time, Trev, which I know is a little bit of a sore subject, but and said, "Hey, are you happen to coming down? And I'd love to connect and have some conversations in person, but then also come check out the volleyball." So wanted to go support them, and one of my little sisters is a big volleyballer. And so I took her with me, and we had a lot of fun to be able to see some games. Unfortunately, they didn't get to be able to take the championship, but I think they've got a lot of young talent. I'm excited to see them continue to grow.
Absolutely. Well, last thing I got for you, you just mentioned Dylan Raiola. Obviously, expectations going into the season for this football team? Coach Rhule seems to have them on the right track. How excited are you for this season and just the direction of this program under Coach Rhule and this staff?
Coach Rhule and the staff looks to be amazing. I've heard nothing but great things about him. We've shared a couple conversations, especially when he was first hired. It's crazy how small the football world is, and players that I've known that he's coached at other universities. And I think he's the right person for the job. Obviously, time will tell with regard to that, but I think overall he's starting to build a great organization. I like what he's doing, and that's me outside looking in. And I'd love to be a helping hand in any way that I can, because we got to get back to dominance. That's one thing that we've always been known as, trendsetters and being dominant within our conference, and then being able to go after championships. We know we can't win every single year, but we're definitely going to make sure that we have the opportunity to get there and make some hay.
Ndamukong Suh, as always, what an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time and chatting with us today. And we'll look forward to seeing you back here in Lincoln coming up this fall.
No, I appreciate it. Go Big Red, and we're going to have some real black shirts out there. So I'm excited to see it soon.